All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
The mission of the Marshall Public School District is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Motion to approve the agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any additions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Tiger Spotlight.
For today's Tiger Spotlight, we'd like to recognize Bruce Remy and his 27 years with Marshall Public Schools. Bruce started working at Marshall Public Schools in the fall of 1995. He first taught fourth grade and coached both football, where he served as a defensive coordinator, and girls basketball, where both in 2001 and 2002 the Tigers brought home championship titles. Bruce has most recently served as the activities director, where under his leadership our teams, clubs, and activities have had high levels of success. Bruce has a work ethic like none other and has set the bar high in all areas. Bruce attends every event where he shows support for all of our students. When he announced last week that he and his family are moving to northern Minnesota in October, we knew he's leaving big shoes to fill. His work at Marshall Public Schools is greatly appreciated, and while we know it will be very difficult to find a replacement, we wish him all the best.
I hired Bruce. He had 2 other job offerings at the same time before he graduated from the University of Minnesota Morris. His dad was superintendent in Tracy at that time. I usually got to work at 6 in the morning, and he was usually there before I was. I mean, each of you has seen, he's 7 days a week, 24/7. His will be tough shoes to fill.
From a lot of perspectives, both myself and my coworkers deal with Bruce on many different levels, and class act, super organized, made our job broadcasting any Tiger events, games, super easy and flawless. Very grateful that he's been here, very excited for him. We will miss him.
Yeah, absolutely, we will.
He's done a wonderful job.
Bruce was invited to be here this afternoon, but he's at an event, so he couldn't join us for this.
That's Bruce.
Okay, moving on to the public forum. Does anybody like to approach the board? Now's your time. Please state your name, just so you know that the board does not answer questions, and you have 3 to 5 minutes to say your case. So, come on up to the podium so we can put you on TV.
Okay. Is this already on?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, I know some of you personally, I guess, because when I was running for the school board, I had a chance to meet you, and I've known Bill Swope for a while, and Jeff Chapman, and I've talked with Jeremy Williams too. So the reason I'm here today is because there have been a number of parents, students, aides, substitute teachers who have corresponded with me about various concerns. And I guess I remember always telling my husband and my 5 children that next to love, the essence of life is communication. So I'm here to communicate. So I guess some of the questions that were brought up because of the Planned Parenthood sex education curriculum that some people other than myself attended at Living Word a couple years ago, there have been questions as to which sex education program is used here at Marshall, and Jeremy Williams had told me this morning that it was not the Planned Parenthood one, but people are still wondering which one it is, and I didn't ask myself this morning. So that would be one thing I think people are interested in knowing. Also, with the critical race theory, is whether that's going to be implemented into the social studies programs here in Marshall. And I know there is a forum being held at the Marshall Golf Club September 30th by a group, I think it's a couple from American Experiment that's going to be at the golf club to discuss the critical race theory. So I did register to attend that. The other thing is, parents have told me that they are finding it difficult on the website to find a list of exactly what courses are being taught. And I can't say anything about that because I'm not very technically minded, so I don't use the website. But that was commented to me that if they're looking for courses, I don't know if they're mentioning, especially at the high school level, like what courses are available. I think some of these parents that have mentioned this are people that homeschool their children and may choose courses that they want their children to take, is what I'm gathering. So, and again, I can't say how that's set up because I don't know. Also, I know it has been thought and expressed that there was a lot of cost to the district because of the lawsuit. I did talk to Pastor LeClaire this morning, and he said because the plaintiffs had asked for no money and because he had gone through the Thomas More Society to find the lawyer Eric Cardell, that there was absolutely no payment made to this lawyer either. So regarding that particular lawsuit, there was no cost involved at all. So I had not heard of the Thomas More Society, but that's where Eric Cardell was found, was in that, through that society. Myself, I guess I read the newspaper. I know some people don't choose to do that anymore because they're online, but there are people, I suppose, you know, my age that grew up reading the newspaper and still tend to do that. And I'm thinking for those people that don't have a computer and aren't used to looking up things on the computer, it might be helpful, like the beginning of the school year, to publish a list of the teachers in each of the schools and what grades they're teaching, or perhaps new teachers in the community. And then at the high school level, to list the teachers and what courses they're teaching. It's interesting how rumors get started because my next door neighbor attends a prayer meeting, and she said they were concerned because they had heard that Mary Kay Thomas was now taking her daughter's position as leading the LGBTQ group at the high school. Well, when I mentioned that to Mr. Williams this morning, he said that's not true. So I have no idea where that came from. But I guess that's why I'm here, is because I just want you to know some of the concerns that are out there. And knowing that I just had a short time to talk, what I did was to make a list of concerns. I ran off copies of them. So I will pass them out to you. And Jeff had explained to me that you do have meetings to discuss issues. So I guess the final thing I would like to say is that when I was running for the school board, the question was asked by Greg Orors, who's the publisher for the Independent. His question was, do you think the members of the school board should be involved in the issues in the schools? And I remember I was surprised at the question because I thought definitely the answer would be yes. You know, the school board members should know what the issues are in the schools. So I was surprised when the three of you that were rerunning for your positions, I don't remember who answered the question first. If it was Bill, I don't remember who was sitting next to me. Maybe it was you. Were you sitting next to me? Okay.
Time.
Okay. So anyway, the question that was answered was, when we were elected to the board, we were told that our job was to hire a good superintendent, and he would take care of the issues in the school. So I have to tell you that this is what people are thinking, is that you are not aware of the issues that are in the school. Just the superintendent is taking care of them. But Jeff assured me that that was not the case, that you have closed meetings and that you are aware of the issues. So I just wanted to make that clear, that I don't like rumors to be floating around either.
Very good.
So,
Thank you. We'll pass those out. Is there anybody else in the public that would like to approach the board? Now is your time. We'll move on to our presentation, the careers in technical education. Welcome.
Thank you. As you all know, I'm Brian Jones, high school principal, and tonight I have with me Renee Jennings, and she's a new position, kind of in a collaborative, and we'll talk a little bit about that here coming up. And so we want to take just a few minutes and provide everyone with an overview of our career and technical education program, where it's at, and where we're headed for the future. So if at any time you have questions, just make sure that you stop and ask. What you have in front of you is a graphic, and you have to have really good eyesight to see that. But this is a career wheel and career cluster that's widely utilized when we talk about career planning for secondary students. We've adapted this career wheel and included a variety of sectors. So if you think about a wheel and the hub of that wheel right in the center, those are the career clusters that exist. And as you start to move out from the hub, there's the square boxes would be kind of some of those broader career fields, and then it moves down to some very specific careers. And then the really small print, the bulleted print, would be the courses that we offer at Marshall High School that we feel would prepare students and align to an opportunity to pursue a career in those fields. And so this appears in our student registration handbook. We utilize it in our careers class, the required class of student seniors, just to try to help and with our families, just as a visual to try to help them think about every February when we start that registration process for the next school year, to help our students think about the types of careers that would best prepare them for a future in those careers. So we have at Marshall High School a variety of existing career and tech ed opportunities which have been in existence for a number of years. They fall primarily in a few different areas, so agriculture, business, healthcare, and then industrial technology. And so I'll just run through each of these, but in agriculture we offer a variety of production courses where kids get to produce projects that are aligned to animal and horticulture. This can be anything from crops and to veterinary medicine. We have classes aligned in the agriculture to help give them a business experience as well. And then in business, we have some, well, I mentioned our careers class. We have our career internship, which we've had in place for probably close to 12 to 15 years. Many of you have served probably as mentors through that at one time or another. But we have law classes. We have classes geared around technology. And then we're in our second year of our intro to education class for students who might be thinking about pursuing a career in education, and we've aligned that with the Intro to Ed course at SMSU. We have programs in healthcare through our CNA program, which takes place at Maytech. And then we have a number of science courses that students who are wanting to study some sort of medical career that they will take. Our careers class back up in business, we offer a specific class around medical careers that we use to also satisfy that career graduation requirement. And then in industrial technology, we have, of course, our welding program at Maytech, which has been very popular. We're making some adjustments to that. We've moved away. It will still be housed, but instead of students taking courses through Minnesota West, we are transitioning that, and they will be taking courses through Lincoln Electric. And so Lincoln Electric is one of the primary manufacturers of welding equipment in the United States. Miller Electric is another one. And so we've talked with our industry partners in the community and asked them about this type of a certification. And they've said if someone brings us a certification, that tells us that they have that baseline knowledge and skill set that we need to where we can train them and that makes them employable. So we're going to pursue that for this year, making a slight adjustment. And then we have a number of other classes lined to try to help students understand about the manufacturing process in the building trades industry. So Renee is our work, learn coordinator, and that's a new position. And I don't want to steal Renee's thunder, so I'll turn it over to her and then fill in as needed or wanted.
Good evening. So yes, my name is Renee Jennings. I work with the Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council as a work and learn coordinator. So I am actually new to the Marshall District, though I have been with the Southwest Minnesota Private Industry Council, or I'm going to say PIC from now on, for almost 3 years. And previous to moving to the Marshall area, I was in the Montevideo area, as the PIC actually covers about 14 counties. And this past spring, I was able to take the opportunity to come back to Marshall and kind of focus more on Marshall, Tracy, and Minneota. And so this opportunity came about through the LIFT funds, through Pride in Tiger Foundation, and then, of course, with the PIC. And so within this partnership, it asked for different schools to be partnered, and so it just made logistically sense to partner Tracy and Minneota. So like I mentioned, I've worked with these schools in the past. I have a relationship built well with Minneota. I'm growing my relationship now with Marshall and also with Tracy. And so what that relationship looks like is I am helping our teachers and our students get connected with different career opportunities and industry partners here locally. So for example, I'm working very closely with Miss Kellen in her internship class. I was able to help get her coordinated with about 15 different businesses within Marshall area, between healthcare to finance to vet medicine. I've also been able to assist with the Intro to Medical Careers class, and that kind of grew really fast, which is very exciting. As we have COVID and those kinds of restrictions, Avera was actually able and willing to say, hey, how can we meet the students outside of the hospital, because we do have these restrictions. And so it's very exciting for the Marshall Public School to allow guests now, and it's very exciting to see those Avera employees saying, hey, I want to get out and I want to meet these students. Another thing that I've really been able to kind of dive into is with Maytech, their work experience class. I have about 30 students this fall who will be doing about 80 hours of work to earn that 1 credit. And that's just a small portion of what I also do. So we do job shadows, business tours. I'm working right now and doing a business tour event here in Marshall, along with guest speakers. How can we bring them into the classroom? How can we get kids out of the classroom in all aspects? And so I meet with our businesses and say, hey, what are you looking for in an employee? That kind of changes my curriculum as what I teach with my students. So in the work experience class, or as a guest speaker in different classes, as well as some of my schools say, hey, can you come talk to my students about different career aspects, what they should be expecting in the workforce when they leave high school. And then also, last but not least, just providing that support, again, for our counselors, our teachers, and helping connect those pieces. Because we have businesses that want students in their doors, or they want to grow their employee base, but they don't know how. And we have teachers that say they have students that they don't know what they want to do after high school, but how do we get them connected with opportunities locally?
About the My CEO program, and then I'll jump in on the others.
Sure. All right, so yeah, we will fast forward. Another program that I'll be bringing to the area coming fall 2022 is a partnership between Marshall Public School and Murray County Central School. So this partnership, or program I should call it, is CEO, Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities. And so this is a curriculum-based, outside of the school opportunity or program for students, juniors and seniors, to be in businesses. This is never going to be hosted in a classroom setting. It's always going to be at a business, doing business tours, learning about how that business came about, hearing from CEOs, hearing from different departments, growing interest in not just the community, but also how can this become a career for me as a student? Maybe I do want to be an entrepreneur, or, you know, I'm going to continue exploring this healthcare, but I didn't know that there were so many aspects within the healthcare industry. This class is open to all students. There is an application process as it is capped at 20. And along with that, it provides the high schoolers with credit because it's a year-long class. It starts in the fall and ends in the spring. And so the beginning of the year is them exploring, doing those business tours, guest speaking events, things of that nature. And then the latter half of the year is actually them working on their own business plan and creating either a business or a product that they will be showcasing at a kind of show and sell opportunity where they're going to be able to, again, show that business that they're working on or selling that product or selling that service.
How many applicants do you have so far for that?
We are currently just working on building our budget and our business relationships. So we're at the very beginning stages. And as registration starts in February, we hope to get very many applicants.
So that's just one of the areas under, in the works for future expansion. This partnership with Private Industry Council and Renee is a joint venture with the school and the Chamber of Commerce, and really she's serving as a bridge with that community. Things and making relationships and connections that in a school we just don't have time in our day to really do. And so we feel like this is going to create a great new number of opportunities for our students as they continue to progress. And so we have that partnership with Private Industry Council, the CEO program, internship expansion. We've been somewhat capped there, and we know that we have a number of students who truly have found participation in that program valuable. One new part also I just want to talk about is the CTE Center, which I believe everyone is aware of to a certain degree. But in the automotive, two of our primary areas that we're going to sort of have tagged for startup would be the automotive in the automotive area. And so one of our teachers over the past probably 6 to 8 months has been working to obtain a number of certifications through the Snap-on company. You probably have seen their trucks. They are a automotive tool company, and they have a number of certifications. And similar to the certification that I talked about earlier with the Lincoln welders and the welding program, Snap-on has other types of certifications where if a student were to complete those and go to an employer, that would tell that employer this student has a baseline knowledge of automobile repair that now I can take and train them specifically to what I need. The last one, building trades, that's a link that didn't show up very well, but that's the Minnesota Construction Teachers Conference, and that's a conference that we were made aware of last spring with the idea that in this CTE Center that the building trades, and we know there's an extreme shortage of people going into the building trades, and so we're going this fall send, I think maybe Renee might be going, I don't know if anyone had told you that yet. We invited her, but one of our teachers, and I think Amanda Peterson also is going to be going, and that'll be up in the cities where they're going to work with tradespeople and have some tours and talk about curriculum in schools and how do we try to better expose students to the opportunities that are available in the building trades industry, because we just think about the number of contractors that were utilized on our Southview project, or if you've needed a call to have some home repair done, there's a shortage. And so just trying to think about in our career and tech ed programs, how can we try to meet the needs of what's needed in Southwest Minnesota? And so I think we're making some steps towards that. It's going to be a journey, not a destination, and it will ever be evolving and changing and adjusting. But we're really excited about the future. We're excited about what we have currently, but also what we plan to add and expand on. Questions that you all have?
Excited to have this position. That's a gift to us. Hear a lot of good things about you, Renee.
Thank you.
I'll say Renee has really been a blessing in this program. So it's a lot of work to make these connections. And we had a check-in meeting the last week we met, and we sat down and Beth and I had this list of things. We should do this. We should think about this. And Renee's like, oh, I've already doing that. And I've done this, and I've got this next week. And everything that we had on the list, she was already on top of. So it's been a great gift from that program that we have this extra help with that. So I'm really excited where we can go with this program.
And partnerships are the way of the future for everybody. So I'm very excited about this, very excited. Welcome.
Does this partnership have a limit as to, is it 3 years or 4, or is it just forever for?
We've got grant funding for the first 3, and then hoping it becomes self-sustaining after that.
The excitement from our business community for a program like this, not just the CTE Center, but for that CEO program, exchanging, getting our students out there into the real business world is through the roof. From everybody I've heard, this is the biggest need that our business community has had, and it's only been that need has only become bigger, so it's only been exacerbated really since the start of the pandemic. And so to have something like this is outstanding. We're really excited to see it, and just really looking forward to seeing where this goes.
I think it'll be a state model, to tell you the truth, which will enhance funding as well. I truly believe that. We'll be on the map.
So,
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Guys.
Thanks, Brian.
Moving on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Any questions, any comments?
I'll just share in the personnel, you'll see Pat Ersfeld has submitted his resignation. Pat resigned 50 years to the day from the day he was hired in Marshall Public Schools. So certainly a big accomplishment, 50 years. We don't get many employees that are here for that long. So I want to say thank you to Pat for all of his dedication as well.
Absolutely. Please vote. It is approved. Moving on to our financials. Motion to approve the financials. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's open for discussion.
Nothing big out there. We did one of our premiums from SFM. You can see it's, tried to point out some of the larger amounts. That invoice was paid. And then as, thanks for going on the tour, you can see all the hard work that some of our custodians and Warren have put in over the summer. Really pushed a lot for a lot of those projects that we've talked about over the meetings, but you can see that in our financials also under the capital outlay and the building construction funds, a lot of those payments coming through.
Any questions, board members, on any of the budget? Not, we'll vote. It is approved. Anything more on financials?
Nope. Again, if you look at the comparison between this year and previous years, we're right on course.
Moving on to board forum, board members, anybody have anything they'd like to bring up?
Just that I asked Aaron and I did both nominate, I think I self-nominated for the delegate assembly for the Minnesota School Board Association. We'll be meeting in December. So if anybody has comments on what they would like to put out to the MSBA for their legislative positions, let Aaron or I know. And then just a little shout out to the City of Marshall, Southwest Initiative Foundation, and the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission had a welcoming event on Saturday. Went off really well. So that was kind of a neat thing to participate in. So hopefully those things will continue.
We all went on that building tour. We saw all our buildings and facilities. Now, I'm just very proud of all our buildings and facilities, our staff. All our buildings are up to date. They're all safe. They're all up to code. They're exciting. They're inviting. And I just, even our older buildings look good. Very good. So I'm very proud of them.
No more classes in hallways.
No more classes in hallways. If anybody wants a tour in the public of any of our buildings, they can sure set them up. We can sure walk them through. Marshall should be proud of their schools. Anybody else have anything? Moving on to our administrator's report.
All right, start with my report. Just wanted to call out, it's really nice to have kids back in the building, start of the school. The past couple weeks, I've been at each site for at least a short visit in the mornings, and I'll say that while most kids won't say they're excited to come back to school, there is a lot of excitement in the hallways, and that's been a lot of fun. Just watching those first few days at each site and getting back to this sense of normal and the work our staff has done to make that happen for our kids. That's been great. I also want to call out certainly COVID cases. We are seeing some rising cases, which we anticipated we'd see some start of the school year. This last week, we did update our online dashboard, and that link is on the website to the new information for this year. That has up-to-date data on the numbers, so it's not necessarily to the moment, but each day, by the end of each day, that is updated for people that want to follow that. And this week, we do have some meetings with local medical providers, reviewing our current mitigation protocols, what's going on. Other districts in the area are going to be part of that too, and just talk about our response and if we need to make any adjustments to what we're doing. So I'm looking forward to that conversation coming up. One piece in particular we're looking at with that is the testing options for families and staff and how we can help address some of the stress that we're seeing in the community with that piece right now. So a lot still going on with that, but we are continuing to monitor that work. Early childhood with Tiffany, she shared that staff have completed their 10 modules of the conscious discipline training. That's been a big piece for that area for those teachers. Conscious discipline is a social emotional tool for students, staff, and the parents. She also shared that during kindergarten assessment week, they were able to complete the screening for the students that had not been screened. As you recall, last year with COVID, we had some changes of what we could do with screening. So they were able to get through all those kindergarten students during assessment week, and then in October, they're going to focus on preschoolers. Parkside, Darcy shares in hers that assessment days were a success this year. They had almost every family attend. The families were able to meet with a teacher, privately share concerns and goals for their child, familiarize themselves with the classroom and the school, and to do some basic assessments with the kids. Certainly Parkside is a different feel this year. Everyone in the school is younger. You take even second graders, you don't think they're old, but they've got so much more experience. So some growing pains with that, looking through the lunch lines, and even the first graders, kindergarten wasn't the same last year, so she's talked about the teaching to carry the trays and how that line works. So some things that they're working out there. You get 500 students under the age of 6 in one building, so it's a little different feel. But that said, she really wanted to call out thank you to the parents and staff. They've been great with helping to figure all that out. It was one of those things you lay out on paper what the plan's going to be and then realize we got to make some adjustments as we go. So they've been doing a nice job getting work through that. Southview, as we're getting that all up and opened and going there, the instructional coach, we have a new instructional coach at that site, and the reading interventionist at that site, they're starting there with something new for that location. They're doing a reading boot camp, trying to address the students who have shown little reading growth over the past year, addressing some of that COVID need that we've identified. So this reading boot camp will take approximately 2 weeks. At the end of that 2 weeks, they're going to again monitor student progress. They've done some assessments, identified who was the farthest behind. They'll do this, and then they'll come back and readjust that as determining who gets that more intensive intervention throughout the year. Sometimes that burst of service can get kids back on track. Pete also calls out in his report for Southview that the positive behavioral interventions and support, so the PBIS team, they've been working to implement different things around encouraging proper behavior, positive behavior at Southview. They're using Tiger tokens again this year to positively encourage students to be responsible, be respectful, and be safe. That continues to be the PBIS model for that location. Middle school, they had some fun things take place with their open house. One thing they did that was a little different, they had a specific open house for everyone that was scheduled where all students came in between 10 and 6 on that first assessment day. They also offered a second open house specific for our minority families that needed translators. So they had a block of time specifically for Korean families. So everyone that needed that Korean translator, then they had Korean translators available, and they had a specific tour where they worked with their EL teachers and staff and got a tour, and then again for Somali and Hispanic families that needed that extra help. So that worked out really well. They've done that a couple years at this site, and it's really been a good experience for those students. And then with all the open house in middle school, just getting the schedule, getting the technology fees, all that kind of first day stuff. So the open house here looked a little different this year, and it went really well. High school, Brian calls out the Link Crew program. I just think that's a really cool program they have in place. It's been for a number of years. The high school has done this for the 9th grade students, that transition piece. There's junior and senior Link leaders, and they go out of their way to do some special activities to welcome the new kids to the high school. Going to the high school it can be kind of big and scary for kids that are there for the first time. Brian also calls out a thank you to the school board members for allowing that staggered start on that day. That works really well. The freshmen get a full day. They have some specific time with the Link Crew. There's a time for a 9th grade meeting. And then the older kids come in kind of throughout the day. And then by the end of the day, everyone's there so they can run through a mock schedule. So everyone gets one chance of finding where that room is before they have to be there the first day and get a tardy or what have you there. So that worked really well there. Brian also called out on Wednesday, September 8th, another thing that they did to help get kids involved in back to school and is a extracurricular activity fair. So I think that was over the lunch hour. They had students set up at tables, and kids that had questions about it or want to sign up for different extracurricular activities and clubs, they could sign up during that time. That worked really well. Maytech, Amanda shared that Shonda is overseeing student council again this year, working to connect with students to be part of that program. She mentioned in our tour earlier today, they have some more students at that building they've had before. So really working on that positive culture and celebrating students. You get turnover students, and you got to work on the culture specifically. So Shonda's done a nice job with that program there. Also, the high school credit recovery program is part of Maytech. She calls out after hours, started on Monday the 13th. And they started with 12 students enrolled, just looking at supporting those lost credits from previous school years. So another way we're addressing that COVID need there. They meet Monday through Friday after school from the time school is done until 5 o'clock for that program. Activities, Bruce called out the M Club held their 12th annual Tiger 5000 as part of the Community Sounds of Summer this summer back in August. It's a nice way for the M Club to kick off the fall sports season with that community event, and he calls out a thank you to everyone that participated in the Tiger 5000. He also mentioned the marching band hosted the 25th annual Pursuit of Excellence this past weekend. It's really been a nice event, one of the largest regional marching band competitions in the upper Midwest. The directors, Larry Peterson, is new this year, and Chris Witherow, along with the entire marching band staff, they do an outstanding job organizing that event. A lot of people in town. It was a busy weekend in Marshall, and that event was one that we hosted that went really well. Special ed, Jackie wanted to call your attention to some changes or an update that was made there. One item that was in the final decisions with the Minnesota special session this summer was related to special ed and recovery services because of the pandemic. So it's a law that created creating a significant burden on our special ed staff with the amount of time it's going to take to review data for each student and looking at what learning losses might have happened, looking specifically at some academic data for those students. So while she's waiting for the Department of Ed to issue specific guidance around the law, she has started to put some things in place, and she's doing some training with staff and how to meet that need, because it's going to mean an extra IEP, meeting extra sit down with each student and identifying what extra programming we might need to provide for some of the students. So parents that have a student with an IEP will be contacted for an extra meeting, and the special ed teachers all putting that on. And we certainly appreciate the work that they're doing with that, and Jackie organizing that for everybody. In Beth's report, she mentions the new teacher workshop. We welcomed 23 new staff members. You met them at our last board meeting. The new staff during workshop week were able to learn about district programs along with numerous other things. Some new sessions this year that went really well. We had a Cultures in Our Schools session where some of our minority advocates came and talked specifically about the cultures that they represent. The EA president joined them for a session that was getting to know your contract. They did a little hunt and find or something through the teacher contract that went really well. And then a question and answer session. They had to turn in some questions ahead of time they had, and then they called some people in to sit and answer those questions to help meet some of that for the new teachers. And that week went really well. The principals and the site leadership teams, Beth mentions, are also working on the 21-22 skips. With spring testing last year, we have some data with some cohort data we can refer back to that they're using as they're writing those skips. So that'll be in October. We'll bring those forward for you guys to approve. In the coordinator special program report, Mary Kay mentions, she talks about the homeless program a bit, so I encourage you to read that full report, but she mentioned specifically each year, Marshall has between 23 and 51 students who qualify as homeless. It's a lot more students than I think people probably realize within our district. And in her report, she explains the definition of what it takes to qualify as homeless. It's not necessarily sleeps on a park bench. There are a lot of different things. If it's not a consistent place to go, for example, would meet the qualifications for homeless. And the American Rescue Plan this year has allocated funds for homeless needs as a result of COVID. So that's something she's working specifically to identify who those are, what those hardships are, and some ways that we can help meet some of those needs to help those students as well as school. And that brings me to Dion. Just gonna talk about the levy.
Just have a few things I want to go over. In the board action items, it's going to be recommended that the board certify the maximum amount of the preliminary levy. Maximum is recommended because every day the levy is changing in the system, and that way the board can decide whether they want to do the maximum amount or not. I did include in my report the history of the levy amounts. And I will just say kind of a little kick to what Trudy said about some of our community members just reading the paper. And I really do think it's important for the community members to see fiscal responsibility that our board and district takes. If you look at what right now, the proposed levy, it's a 0.87% increase. And that does not include the ag land credit, because that's not in the levy. That goes straight to the ag landowners through their property tax. With that, and I worked with the county on this, taking last year's paid 2021 amount to credit the $565,000. The amount actually is increasing from 55% to 60%. We'll be looking at about a 6.27% decrease in our levy for our community members. I just think it's important to make sure that they're aware of that. As we have talked about maybe having to go to an operating referendum at some point, I think it's important to see that history of the decreases that are out there right now. December 6th, we'll do the truth in taxation presentation, which then on December 20th, it'll be up to the board to certify that final levy. Also included was a couple of graphs to kind of show you that outline. Just wanted to say that the last 3 weeks, I think it's almost been 3 weeks that Kate's been in the HR position. She's done an awesome job. I did put a special note out to Tricia, who typical for Tricia to take on extra things, but has been very, just thank you for helping out with that, because that would have been a little too much at that time. We started our open enrollment for dental and vision along with their flex benefits. And then we also, last week, Hoffman and Probst was on site. We started our audit process. The audit work will continue for the next couple of weeks, and then November 1st, they'll present to the board. And again, another special thank you to Russ Sano, who takes that audit process kind of under his wing and helps us out with that. And just comes to us when he needs stuff. A couple of things I wanted to point out that weren't in my report. I apologize for that. Westside had a meeting with Dennis Larson, looking at probably towards the mid to end of October for demolition of Westside. He feels like he's on course for that. Prior to demolition, we actually met over there with the fire department and some of the SWAT team members. They're going to use Westside as some of their training prior to. It's pretty cool because they'll be able to go in and knock down doors and use the facility training as they want, which they don't have that opportunity. So I just wanted to point out that collaboration is pretty awesome. Next Tuesday, we actually are going to do a tour of Southview with the fire department. So they're familiarized with the building, the exits, and where everything is. And then one last thing, just wanted to make sure the board was aware. We had discussed this a couple of years ago, but never really came to fruition because of COVID and everything. But we ended up our ticket prices to be closer in line with some of the different people in the conferences. Bruce had done a survey. We raised our prices on the students by $1, up from $4 to $5, and adults from $6 to $7. But in the same, we're also offering free admission to seniors over 60. Feel like that's a nice thing to the community to offer that. Also, Bruce started this year online offering single game tickets and season passes online. So it's kind of cool to be able to do that ahead of time.
Very good. Any questions, board? Nice recap. Thank you. Moving on to our discussion items, this is the first reading of policies 401 through 406. Did anybody have any questions?
There were really very few changes in any of these policies. Strong.
Moving on to our action items, the first action item is approval of the certification of our preliminary levy. Motion to approve it. Do I have a second?
Second,
Any discussion?
Again, this is just for the board to approve the maximum amount.
And then later we can decide. Very good. We'll call the vote. Is approved. That's it. Board members, thank you for your time. Meeting's